just because she got pregnant before marriage. After graduating with a master's degree, her father married her off to a farm owner in a small town. When they first met, the man wasn't as rough as she had imagined, but rather a gentle and reserved big boy. Seeing Annie sizing him up, Mike was so nervous that he didn't dare to make eye contact, but Annie asked him bluntly if he could accept the child in her belly. After getting an affirmative answer, they held the wedding that afternoon. There were no rings and no friends invited, but Annie didn't care. She was still pining for her ex-boyfriend. As for marrying Mike, it was only to appease her father. However, Annie would never have thought that this countryman would completely conquer her, a graduate student. In just 2 months, the road home was desolate, which made Annie, who had been spoiled since childhood, find it hard to complain. As soon as she got out of the car, she regretted it. Not only were they far away from neighbors, but the house also looked dilapidated. Fortunately, Mike was really considerate, gentlemanly, opening the door for her. Obviously, she was reluctant about this marriage. Luckily, the inside wasn't as bad as imagined. Although the decor was simple, it was clean and tidy, an ideal life for 2 people and 3 meals. To accommodate Annie's living habits, Mike bought a refrigerator, installed a water heater, and let Annie stay in the room with the best lighting. At dinner that night, the two talked about each other's hobbies. Annie said she was studying the lost city of Troy, but Mike had never stepped out of his own farm and could only listen silently. Annie asked Mike why he agreed to this marriage, especially since she was pregnant and couldn't do household chores, but Mike said it was heaven's will. That night, the two went back to their respective rooms. The newlyweds did not spend the night together. The next day, Annie used the excuse of reporting safety to her family to drive into town alone to make a phone call, but Mike wanted to get closer to Annie and insisted on driving with her. While Annie was on the phone, Mike went to the bookstore alone. Not only did he borrow a parenting manual, but he also borrowed books about the city of Troy. He wanted to understand Annie's world and love her child properly. However, Annie complained to her sister about the hardships of farm life. She still couldn't help but ask about her ex-boyfriend. To help Annie adapt to farm life, Mike let Annie drive to church while he patiently guided her from the side. Annie was very smart and quickly mastered the skills of driving a truck. She smiled for the first time, but no matter how considerate Mike was, Annie often deceived him. Every time she went to town for a gathering, she would lie about going to the post office to send letters to her sister. In fact, the letters were all sent to her ex-boyfriend. He fell in love with Annie at first sight, but his barren knowledge made it difficult for him to express it in words. He could only express his infatuation through actions. Every time Annie had a prenatal checkup, he accompanied her without leaving a step. But Annie became more and more anxious because they found out she was 4 months pregnant just 1 month after getting married. She asked Mike if he was afraid of gossip from people around them, but Mike said it was others' blessing for them. After hearing Mike's answer, Annie's frozen heart slightly loosened. Mike was full of longing for their future life, but Annie didn't appreciate it. She wasn't ready to treat Mike as a husband, nor was she ready to be confined to the farm for the rest of her life. This was Annie's first time participating in social activities in the small town. In order to take care of her feelings, Mike quietly sat with her on the side. Annie also took care of Mike's emotions. Seeing Mike's fingers tapping along with the beat, she immediately invited him to dance together. The two went from being clumsy to spinning in sync. At this moment, the sense of distance between them was gradually closing. On the way back, the corners of Mike's mouth curled up slightly. Annie's eyes were full of admiration for him. It seemed that this man was really worth entrusting her life to. Not long after, Annie's sister came to visit her. Seeing the desolate living environment, her sister couldn't bear for Annie to suffer here. She immediately told Annie to go home with her. As long as she cried to her father that Mike was a domestic abuser, her father would definitely allow her to return to the family. But Annie firmly rejected her sister's suggestion. She told her sister that Mike was the kindest man she had ever met and that she couldn't hurt him with such rumors. Until now, Annie hadn't realized that she was leaning towards Mike. It seemed that their relationship was slowly heating up. Warm days were quietly coming, but the arrival of a letter turned everything back to its original form.